Mindful of the immense legacy, I'm humbled by your trust.
The diplomatic relationship between our two countries is very good.
For providing someone like me the opportunity to achieve my dream.
Take a step ahead for your day each morning on This Morning.
It is 7:40. We are talking about Hangeul. It was Hangeul Day yesterday. Plenty of events taking place here in Seoul. And, of course, around the country, it was the 565th birthday of the nation's script. And while people celebrating here, there's also a lot of interest in Korean language in other countries as well. And my guest this morning is Dr. Gu Eun-hee. She's the president of a small institute called Adroit College in San Jose, California. They offer Korean languages, and we wanted to speak with her about her experience in doing so. So good morning.
Good morning.
And thank you for taking the time to speak with us. So we've been hearing lately that the demands for students around the world really to learn Korean language, I should say, is really on the rise. How about in the United States? What kind of changes are you seeing there, and why do you think that's happening?
Okay, nowadays many young Americans are interested in learning Korean language and culture. It is a new trend. Not only Asian American students, but also non-Asian American students try to learn Korean because they want to understand the K-pop songs without translation. Also, age of Korean language students at our schools becomes much younger than before. My students used to be late 20s through 50s, 60s. In the past, but in this quarter, most of our students are K-pop lovers who are teens or 20s. Even some of my students who are non-Koreans want to become K-pop singers in Korea.
So it's really K-pop that's driving this demand. I would have thought for a second there that maybe there's some kind of economic reason behind this. Maybe it's parents are pushing their kids to learn a quote-unquote Asian language. But at the end of the day, it's the K-pop.
For the foreigners learning Korean, the main causes of K-pop and the Korean drama.
Very interesting indeed. I'm curious, I think you've been doing this since 2006. You set up Adroit College there. Can you tell us, how did you come up with this idea to establish that Korean language school in San Jose, and what are the accomplishments that you've made so far?
Okay, before establishing my school, Adroit College, I have taught Korean language and culture at several American universities and create the first single subject Korean credential program, which was to get a California teacher credential to teach Korean at American public secondary schools at Hope International University in Southern California. But when I came to San Francisco Bay Area, I found that there are needs for learning Korean languages and culture among IT people, so informational technology people in Silicon Valley area. But there was no place to learn it. So thus I decided to establish a Korean language school there.
Fascinating. Of course, I guess the IT people there have a lot of relations with South Korean companies in particular doing business here and there with them when they come to visit. So I guess that's good. Maybe they don't become fluent, but at least they learn some culture along the way, and that would presumably help the relations. So that's nice to see. Now, along the way, I'm sure you've had some difficulties, some challenges. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Okay, even though interest on Korean language and culture has increased recently, Korean is still a minority language in U.S., and it is not easy to recruit students. Also, we need more resources, including textbooks and other media and materials specifically designed for teaching Korean to non-Korean students in U.S. So we have founded the Korean Language and Culture Foundation, which is a non-profit organization to develop teaching materials and train Korean language teachers with the effective teaching methodologies for Korean language students in U.S. We need the financial support to do this project. So if anybody is interested in helping this project, please contact me.
Okay. Well, I think it seems though that the government is lining up to do something. We've heard recently that the Korean government is going to establish more state-run Korean language institutes in the U.S. They're also going to dispatch licensed instructors to those institutes. Does that affect you at all? Will you be able to access some of that funding, or are you concerned that some of that activity may be competitive to you?
Oh, okay. So I'm glad to hear that Korean government is trying to establish more Korean language institutes in the U.S. But I have different opinions about dispatching licensed instructors from Korea because they were licensed with the requirements of Korean institutions. Somehow they do not know about the situation of American students in the U.S. So most of the Korean language institute in the U.S. has 2 to 3 hours per week only for the Korean lessons. But those institutions in Korea have about 20 hours per week lessons. So also, our students do not have any other place to practice Korean outside of classroom. So if the licensed teacher in Korea expects our students to be like Korean language students in Korea, it will make our students burden of learning Korean. So I strongly believe that teachers should be trained in the country of target language. And also, I hope we can have a chance to get a Korean government fund in the future.
Right. I mean, it seems to make sense what they're doing. Obviously, I think your point is that they perhaps need a little bit of culture training, or at least understanding what the cultural landscape is before you jump in. Maybe the accredited sounds good, but maybe not so good, or maybe not appropriate for the cultural situation, the milieu there, at least in California. Interesting, though. I mean, overall, as more public schools select Korean language as their curriculum, we've seen that introduced in a lot of the public schools. What are the reactions that you're hearing from Korean American parents?
Okay, most of them are very excited about the fact that their children can learn Korean as a credited course at the American public schools. But some parents still doubt about it. So when we try to establish Korean classes at American public schools, we need to brainwash the parents first. So when they got the right idea, they are eager to help establishing Korean classes at their children's school. But if we establish Korean as an advanced freshman course, which is an AP course, parents will support it more.
So all in all, though, it seems that the trends are good. I mean, you're having some success with your private institute. Public schools are doing well, it seems, and it seems in general that the language is being embraced by Americans. Is that the case from what you've experienced?
Yes, it is.
Okay, good. One last question I wanted to ask you. A lot of youngsters in Korea these days, it seems, to have a tendency to not use the, I guess, proper, quote-unquote, proper Korean language or traditional Korean language. And I know this because I'm classically trained, let's say, in a university setting where we learn the grammar and so on. But I have no idea what kids are saying when they're texting to me or when they're talking on Twitter. What's your comment about that? And what's your thought? I mean, are we losing the traditional Korean? Are you concerned about that at all?
Yes, thank you for asking this question. I have worried about this matter for a long time, actually. So contracting words in a new trend of youngsters of not only Korean, but also in other nations, for they want to use less word online. But, I saw many young people in Korea could not distinguish Korean vowels and tend to simplify all compound vowels. So, for example, the vowels in ke and ge should be pronounced different. But most of youngsters cannot distinguish and even tell foreign students that those vowels pronounced the same. Also many young people tend to put English words in Korean sentences and contracted sentences as a word so that even native speakers cannot understand it. So, but more serious problem I can see is that even public media create the, alien words that are totally different from the original meaning of, such as PT or SPAC, when I saw
Right.
the article, with the title containing the expression Pyeongchang PT, on the major newspaper.
It makes you see red, right?
I know, I was shocked and sad. We have a Korean word for the meaning of presentation, and if they use the PT rather than the Korean word, it will sound better, So I'm sorry to say that when you say PT in U.S., it's American Will Image Physical Therapy, not the presentation, And today's, I believe, the 565th, birthday of Hangeul, and we had a Hangeul Day ceremony with our non-Korean students last Saturday. Let's not contaminate our valuable Korean language in Hangeul, and I want to say let's not make the great King Sejong sad.
let's not make King Sejong sad. Indeed, I find some of that Yuengo a little bit creative myself, but of course I don't understand about 90% of it. So it's always a little bit fun to try to figure it out. Dr. Gu, thank you very much for your time this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting.
We are speaking with Dr. Gu Eun-hee. She is the president of Adroit College in San Jose, California.